It's great to have you with us from wherever you're tuning in from. For more information about Elevate Church or to contact us, head to our website elevatechurch.me and take us wherever you go by downloading our Elevate Church AU app. We hope this message inspires and helps you to take your next steps in your journey.
So have we got any fans of 21 Pilots, the band out there? Not maybe a lot of hits, but their first real breakout hit came in 2015. The breakout song won them a Grammy, actually, and the song's called Stressed Out, and it's really all about the harsh end of adolescence. Boo. Now here's some of the lyric. Used to dream of outer space, but now they're laughing at our face. And if you go to a live concert, the band says, "Saying," and the crowd yells, "Wake up, you need to make more money." Welcome to adulting. Yes, the end of adolescence. And the lyric includes these words: "Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when our mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out. Wake up, you need to make more money." And the reality is, as we journey through life, we go from not needing any money because, our parents took care of everything, to then, money being fun when you get your first pocket money or maybe your first part-time job whilst you're still living with your parents. Whoa, hello, new PlayStation. Hey, this money thing's fun. But then you get out from behind your parents' slipstream and money can become a source of stress. In fact, bringing together some of the studies around what causes people stress, the list, well, it's got a lot of the usual suspects, money being one of them. Work, which, work we do to earn money. The economy, which is all about these pressures that are being imposed on and around us about money. Rising prices, how far can my money go? Will it go far enough? AI is going to take my job and allow, therefore I won't be able to earn any money. Relationships, people arguing or fighting or having tension around money. And then health, which incidentally, if you lose your health, it really doesn't matter how much money you have. But every year here at Elevate, we teach a series around God's principles for financial management. And we have discovered year after year after year, as people have learned these financial principles and applied them, we've seen individuals, couples, families experience less stress and less anxiety, and yes, less fighting with their spouse, and instead experience more peace, more joy, more freedom, and more purpose. And that's where we are today, right in the series we're teaching this year on God's principles of financial management, which we've literally just called Jesus on Money. And I said it last week when we launched this series that I'm a big fan and a big advocate for people to educate themselves about money, how money works, how to manage it better, how to save, how to invest, how to eliminate debt. Surrounding yourself with a very competent team helps as well. A great financial planner, maybe a great mortgage broker, a great accountant. All of these things, very, very important. Read some books, listen to some podcasts, watch some YouTube channels from good content creators around money and wealth and savings and investment and debt reduction and all of that sort of stuff. But here's something that I said last week. Even though I'm an advocate of all those things and learning from those people and those resources, more important to me than all of those voices is what Jesus has to say about money. And so last week, we kicked off this series with what we called the treasure principle. And we learned this from Jesus when he was teaching the Sermon on the Mount, which was a a list of things all around instructing us how the kingdom of God actually works in practice here on earth, and therefore what our priorities need to be, what our perspective needs to be, what our behavior needs to look like. And he challenged us that we shouldn't prioritize the endless accumulation of more and more stuff. And instead, we should prioritize things of eternal value and store up treasures in heaven with things like acts of kindness, words of encouragement, and yes, generous financial giving. That was the treasure principle. You can go back and watch that on this channel, or you can grab our podcast. Just look for Elevate Church Perth on your favorite podcast app. Go back and listen to that. Today, I want to talk about the security principle. And the big idea today is that if you make money the primary source of your security in life, you're going to be singing along with 21 Pilots. You're going to be stressed out. However, when you make God the primary source of security in your life, you will actually be able to live with a peace and joy that transcends your financial circumstances. And in fact, we will learn from Jesus that only a rich relationship with God can give you lasting security. So let's drop into Jesus' teaching the security principle today. If you've got your smartphone camera, scan this flow code. It's going to take us to Luke chapter 12. And while you're doing that, just give it a little bit of the run-up. The run-up is Jesus had been invited to a religious leader's house to have a meal with them. And, well, suffice to say, it didn't go well because Jesus didn't act very religious. He didn't meet the religious leader's expectations. And so Jesus left and he started moving along. And Luke records that thousands actually gathered around him to see him and hear him. And as that was happening, Jesus turned to his closest disciples and kind of went on a bit of a debrief of what had just happened in the religious leader's house. You can read that for yourself. And then this happened. Someone called from the crowd, "Teacher, please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me." Well, Jesus replied, "Friend, who made me a judge over you to decide such things as that?" And then Jesus said, "Beware, guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own." Now, just in that little exchange, there is a lot that we can learn. First of all, not necessarily related to money, but it's wild to read that this guy from the crowd thought that he needed to give Jesus advice, telling Jesus what to do. And I just want to remind us that God wants our surrender more than he wants our suggestions. Okay. Next, and this is Jesus' response, he said, "Friend," and didn't really mean like, "Hey, friend." He meant it's more like, "Listen, man." And then he told the people gathered, guard against every kind of greed. And in my experience, greed is one of the things that we very quickly and very easily see in other people, but rarely see or acknowledge in our own lives. I mean, in 30 years of church leadership, I have never had someone ask me, "Listen, Mark, can you please pray for me? I feel like greed is a big deal that I need to overcome." Never happened once. But the reality is that greed is a heart issue, not a money issue. So when Jesus talks about guard against all types of greed, he's actually talking about like place a sentry, place a lookout, place a guard in front of your heart to make sure that you don't allow your heart to be consumed by greed. And this really highlighted the idea that the guy in Jesus' story was looking to money and not Jesus to give him more security in life. I'm going to talk about guarding against greed a little bit later. So hang around. And then Jesus said this, which I actually think is one of the things in this series, this very next line, that is the most, or one of the top 3 most confronting things that Jesus teaches about money and stuff in 2026. Because Jesus said this: life is not measured by how much you own. And yet the reality is, in 2026, we very, very, very much often, our culture, our sphere, very much measure life by how much you own. Like, money and stuff has become a sort of a scorecard. And if you don't believe me, what do you think of when you hear someone described as being rich? Oh, that person, yeah, they are rich. Or it's almost exclusively points to money. That money's a scorecard, and that someone that's rich is someone that has a lot of money. It's become like not just a metric of success in life, it's actually become like the metric of success in life. And it starts to play out with, what postcode you live in, or that decides whether, you're worth more. What, size house and how many square meters it is and what its value is on the market, what car you drive. Jesus said life is not measured by how much you own. And yet in 2026, it is very much, in our culture, very much measured by how much you own. Now, I said it last week. I'm probably going to say it again today, and I'm probably going to say it again in the next couple of weeks, but it bears repeating. Jesus' warning isn't against making money, having some nice things. Last week, his warning was against making the accumulation of money and stuff our number one priority in life. That was last week's warning with the treasure principle. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Today's warning, again, isn't about having money and some nice things. Today's warning, the security principle, is against placing your security in money. And then Jesus tells this story. And as we read it, I want you to see or listen to how many times the person in Jesus' story, the subject, talks about himself. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. Right here, right now, nothing wrong with this. It's kind of a good thing. The guy, you're in farming to produce fertile crops. Well done. Good job. So far, so good. But he said to himself, what should I do? I didn't have room for all my crops. Then he said, I know, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And then I'll have room enough to store all my wheat and other goods, and I'll sit back and I'll say to myself, my friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. You tell this story in 2026, there's a farmer, he's super successful, so successful that he didn't have enough room to store his barns, so he tore them down and he built bigger barns. Listen, this guy would have his own YouTube channel, he would have written the books, he would have done the webinars, people would be flocking to him, learning his secrets of successful farming and wealth creation and accumulation and all those things. Not a problem. And this wasn't the moral of Jesus' story. He's not against success. He's not against being fruitful. What the audience that Jesus was talking to would have found shocking is the fact that this guy thought that everything was for him. Because that's not how they lived in that culture. In that culture, it was implicit that when you were productive, that when you were blessed, you would actually do it and use it through the lens of how can I, yes, of course, meet my needs, the needs of my family, and the needs of the community around. It was just assumed, but this guy made the mistake of thinking it was all about him and all for him. And that's really at the essence of greed. It's a hard issue where we conclude that everything that we're blessed with is about us and for us. And that's what Jesus warns. Guard against all types of greed. So let me I said earlier I'll do this. Just share with you 3 practices that we can do consistently that actually guard against greed. The first one is to learn contentment. And contentment doesn't come naturally. I mean, our gravitational pull is towards greed. And if you don't believe me, those of you who are parents, remember this. You never had to teach your toddler the word mine. In fact, you recall, you had to teach them the word share. It's kind of baked into us. So being grateful is just saying, look, I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful for what God's given me. Now, I won't get into this today. Don't confuse contentment with settling. It's great to want more, to be more successful, to be more effective, to move in your career, to create some generational wealth. All of those things are good things. So you don't have to settle for where you are. But the problem is if we can be so focused on what we don't have and what we don't yet have that we can lose the ability to be content also with what God's already blessed us with. Secondly, get some perspective. I mean, in the world of social media, unless you're Elon Musk, you're always going to see people who have more than you. And I encourage people to be inspired by people who have more than you, learn from them. You know, how did you get ahead? How did you progress in your career? How did you become successful in that endeavor or that arena? But don't let being exposed to people who have more than you cause you to overlook what you have. This is about getting perspective, because I want to remind you, if right now you are in a home, or you are going to go to a home of some description, and you have a roof over your head, on a global scale, you're rich. If last night you slept in a bed or just a comfortable sofa, you're rich. If at some point today you drank a glass of clean water from a tap that you didn't have to trek to bring back, you're rich. If when you need to travel from A to B, you have access to a reliable form of transport, you're rich. And we can lose that perspective by looking at aspects or people in the world who have more than us, but remember that we probably have more than a lot of other people. And then this one, which links back to what we taught last week, practice generosity. Put God first in your finances, not yourself first. Give God your first and your best, and trust that He will bless the rest. And boy, this is really a true test of where your security is. Because giving away some of what God has provided to you really is a tangible and measurable demonstration that, yeah, I'm actually trusting that as I give God my first and best, He will provide and bless the rest. And my wife and I, we do this. Our primary focus on consistent generosity is giving into the local church, our local church, Elevate Church. And we do this because we're not just the leaders of the church, we're products of the church. We have and continue to experience life change in the context of Elevate Church. My life is richer because of the people that I get to do life with, do ministry with, the people I get to meet, the people I get to influence. My life is richer. Our lives are richer. The life change that we get to be witnesses to. This weekend, we're baptizing another person here in Perth on Sunday. We get to be a part of that. We get to invest in that. And we give consistently into Elevate Church because we want other people to experience, not just that we want to experience more of these great things that God's bringing our way. We want more people to experience God's goodness and the power of being connected into a local faith community. So that's why we give. All right, final thought, back to the guy who, incidentally, we now refer to as the rich fool. He didn't get a pat on the back from Jesus. Again, not because he was rich, not because he was successful, but because he thought it was all about him and for him. And when he said, and Jesus tells the story, I'll sit back and say to myself, my friend, you've enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. This is the dream. Retire early, get the boat, take the vacations, or nothing wrong with that. But if that's the limit of the vision for your life, then you've made the mistake of thinking it's all for you and it's all about you, because God said to him, you fool, you'll die this very night. Retire early. Yeah, you retire early, pal. You're not seeing tomorrow. And then who will get everything you worked for? Yes, a person, and this is Jesus' mic drop, is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. Whoops. Again, Jesus' criticism isn't about the guy getting rich. His criticism is about the guy placing his security in earthly riches while neglecting to develop a rich relationship with God.
We really hope you got a lot out of this message. If you live in the Perth area, we'd love for you to join one of our live experiences. For times and directions, as well as information, head to our website, elevatechurch.me. For those of you beyond the Perth area, we'd love for you to connect with our online experience, which premieres every Sunday via YouTube and Facebook Live, and on demand immediately after. And to partner with us to reach more people by giving financially, head to our website, elevatechurch.me, and also download our Elevate Church AU app.